So welcome, everybody. We thought that at the Center for the Work, Katie didn't need an introduction, but some of you may not know John Tarrant, and I'd like to tell you a little about him and read a few passages. John, why don't you have a seat? I'm reading from...
How many of you are familiar with John and his work? Would you raise your hands? Oh, I love you're here. I love that we're all here to take this in.
So this is what his bio says. John Tarrant was born in Tasmania and worked in the antiquated copper smelters there, writing poetry after his shift, which is quite something to imagine. Later, he was a fisherman on the Great Barrier Reef and a lobbyist for Aboriginal land rights before graduating from the Australian National University. As Zen teacher, was practiced Jungian psychotherapy for 30 years and studied Koans for 40. John Tarrant now directs the Pacific Zen Institute, a venture in meditation and the arts, as well as teaching culture change in organizations. John and I have been friends for about 40 years. We actually practiced together in Maui for 3 years or so. And we're what is called Dharma brothers. It's like having a war buddy. We were on the front lines of ourselves for those years. And, hearing the rifle bullets whiz through past our ears, and sometimes, having a bullet hit and deal with the wound in a as helpful a way as possible. So it's like there's something special about having a friend for so many years and decades who has been through the thick of intensive training with you. I was immediately aware of John at the Maui Zendo because during the intensive what they call sesshin, which is a week-long meditation practice where you're meditating, I forget what it was, 10 or 12 hours a day, something like that. John and I were the two crazy people who kept meditating after the schedule was done far into the wee hours of the morning. And that craziness could also be described as an intense hunger for the truth. So I recognized him and he recognized me in that, and that there was a strong bond there from the beginning. So what I'd like to do, just to give you a taste of his books, John's really an unusual person in that not only does he have a clear and deep insight, but he's an excellent writer, and it's a rare combination. His two books are two of the few books that I go back to again and again every few years, and I can't describe the pleasure that I have at reading his sentences and the rhythms and the music, as well as the insight. So I want to give you a little taste of them, and I don't know how many books we have in the bookstore afterwards, but if we run out of books, I would recommend that when you get back home, you order them from the internet, because they're really marvels of beauty, grace, and insight. So I want to read you two short passages, one from The Light Inside the Dark. This is from the beginning of the book. It's a section called The Inward Voyage. When we were children, our days were full of wonder. The world unfolded itself and ourselves at the same time. In such an eternal afternoon, the grass hums, the ball flies into the blue, and the girl sings the skipping rope song. Cinderella, dressed in yellow, went upstairs to kiss a feller, made a mistake and kissed a snake. How many doctors did it take? Imagining the time when she will be bitten by a life that is still being dreamed and has not yet arrived, though it is clear to her father, watching, that life is here for her now, utterly complete. Beneath or inside the life we lead every day is another life. This unseen life runs like a river beneath the city, beneath work, family, ambition, beneath our pleasures and griefs. There is another world, says Paul Éluard, and it is inside this one. I'm going to skip a few paragraphs now. If we respect the inner life, we find that it is also possible to reverse the whole relationship between inner and outer, beneath and above, and make the inner life come first, as a garden that is tended for the tending's own sake. To cultivate, to know, to love this vast inscape is the only way to be free in any circumstances, the only way to mend the poverty of wasted years. We explore the interior realm because it is what we humans are for, consciousness, the marvelous voyage. Much of the journey is about the ways we work with our attention, because attention gives us more life. It expands the register, bringing us to notice more of the vividness and consolation of our dark lives, so that we can exist in our true range and not go around missing things as if we knew countries only from their airports and hotels. Attention is the most basic form of love. Through it we bless and are blessed. When we attend to the interior life, we also connect with what surrounds us. The espresso machine hissing, the skipping rope with its two red handles in line, and the rope curling lazily out and back, the green points on the snowdrops nodding over the cold ground. What was matter and merely inanimate becomes family, and we, the children, walking home, all wanting for love to be seen for who we are, for a new red car, is wanting to find and be taken into this mysterious depth in things. And it is this inner connection that resolves the problem of who we are and makes us at home in the world. For the interior life sweetens the humblest thing. It opens for us the magic in ordinary life. And from Bring Me the Rhinoceros, which is a wonderful and quite funny book about koans. Katie asked me to read this passage to you.
That's because I love to hear his voice. And because John is such a great writer and insightful.
I'm actually enjoying Stephen's voice. To hell with the writing.
Actually, I read to Katie in bed every night, and if you see her nodding off, sometimes it only takes 2 or 3 minutes, and it saves on sleeping pills. Koans are not intended to prescribe a particular kind of happiness or right way to live. You'll be hearing a lot more about koans for those of you who don't know what in the world they might be. They don't teach you to assemble or make something that didn't exist before, Many psychological and spiritual approaches rely on an engineering metaphor and hope to make your mind more predictable and controllable. Koans go the other way. They encourage you to make an ally of the unpredictability of the mind and to approach your life more as a work of art. The surprise they offer is the one that art offers. Inside unpredictability, you will find not chaos, but beauty. Koans light up a life that may have been dormant in you. They hold out the possibility of transformation, even if you are trying to address unclear or apparently insoluble problems. To begin with, here are 7 things to notice about koans. Koans show you that you can depend on creative moves. Usually people think of a creative leap as something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. With koans, a creative leap is more like 1, 2, 3, 4, rhinoceros. What if happiness were a creative activity like writing a poem? You cannot know where the next line of a poem will come from, and you can't force it, yet there is a discipline that helps. When you attend in the right way, the poem's next line really does arrive out of nowhere. In the same way, through a koan, happiness can arrive out of nowhere. Next point. Koans encourage doubt and curiosity. Koans don't ask you to believe anything offensive to reason. You can have any religion and use koans. You can have no religion and use koans. Koans don't take away painful beliefs and put positive beliefs in their place. Koans just take away the painful beliefs and so provide freedom. What you do with that freedom is up to you. Those of you who have been practicing the work for a while will be aware that you can substitute inquiry in all of these sentences for koans. Koans rely on uncertainty as a path to happiness. If you set off after happiness thinking that you know what you need, you will always end up with something that meets that need. The problem here is that when you are unhappy, it is as if you were in prison. And in that narrow cell, you think of happiness with an inmate's mind. You might imagine a more comfy cell, consider painting the walls a nicer color, rose perhaps, and getting a new sofa. Koans don't support the interior decoration project. They demolish the walls. Next point, koans will undermine your reasons and your explanations. If you have a reason for happiness, then that happiness can be taken away. The person you love could leave, the job could stop being interesting. If you have a reason for loving life, what happens if that reason fails? With koans, you may find that life and love are so strong and vivid that they can't be explained or justified. Koans open a happiness that comes for no good reason. That happiness exists before reasons have appeared in the universe. Koans lead you to see life as funny rather than tragic. Well, which would you rather? This is one of their delights. For example, an earnest visitor asked a Chinese Zen master, "Where do we go when we die?" "I will go straight to hell," said the old master. "You," said the questioner, "a great Zen master, why would you go to hell?" "If I don't," the Zen master said, "who will be there to teach you?" Koans will change your idea of who you are, and this will require courage. If you are used to living in a small room and suddenly discover a wide meadow, you might feel unsafe. Everyone thinks that they want happiness, but they might not. They might rather keep their stories about who they are and about what is impossible. Happiness is not an add-on to what you already are. It requires you to become a different person from the one who set off seeking it. Koans uncover a hidden kindness in life. Koans show a path in which kindness is part of the foundation of the mind, not one of its accoutrements, not something to be cultivated. If it were an attainment, kindness could be taken away or lost. When you unpack all your motives and other people's motives and get to the bottom of things, you find love. I know that this is a shocking thing to say, but I will try to show you how it is true. And so the book proceeds. What's going to happen here is a conversation between Katie and John, and at some point, one of them or both of them will open it up for questions. And you should feel free to ask them anything that comes to your mind about Zen, about koans, about inquiry, about the relation between the two, about how your practice with koans might be enhanced by a practice in inquiry and vice versa, or about enlightenment, about everyday mind. Whatever you feel interested in having them talk about, please feel free to ask. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. And also, you are welcome to interrupt us anytime, right? Yeah. Okay, so John, koans.
Thank you, Katie. First of all, it's great to be here and bring us together. So it's nice.
So good to sit with you here.
The context here is Katie actually and I thought, it was her idea actually, but I thought it was a good one. It'd be kind of fun for her to talk about inquiry, which is this fundamental human impulse, like to ask questions about what is it really all about and why does it hurt when it hurts and things like that.
And what time is it?
And what time is it? And where is the bathroom? And and all questions in some way have an ability about them and a dignity about them. And so, Katie, you developed this system where you just ask, you think, being curious about what's going on in life is a cool thing. And Koans are also founded on that curiosity in the sense of questions about life. So, like, who am I, and who am I when I do this, and stuff, which is the foundation of inquiry, right? So Koans became a tradition. It's an old tradition, originally from China. So I'll do my little elevator thing about koans. And where people would come to teachers and ask them questions, and instead of saying, well, here's my 7-part course, they would try and answer it straight away with the ground on the idea that if we already have it, maybe we could step into it right now. If we're already connected to the inward light or any kind of light, then maybe what if there's nothing wrong would be the fundamental koan premise, which is rather like the work, really. So, and also the notion that this isn't it is the essence of suffering. This can't be it. And then I can hear Katie saying, well, is that true, dear? So yeah. And so an example of, and so these questions and answers got collected and became this rather beautiful thing where you got the anthologies of interesting questions and answers. And here would be an example where a teacher had a precious thing given to him by the governor, and it was a rhinoceros horn fan. Before the Endangered Species Act, and it was a rhinoceros horn fan, and it's expensive and useless, and he tossed it in a closet. But then one day he remembered it, and he asked his assistant, "Bring me the rhinoceros fan." And the assistant says, "It's broken." And so the teacher says, "In that case, bring me the rhinoceros." And so that would be, there's something disturbing starts to happen. And when I was writing the rhino book, I was wondering whether anybody ever have anything other than stunned silence to these questions as a reaction. And so I ran to this woman who knew me and asked me what I was doing. I said I was working on this book. What's a koan? I told her that koan, and she said, "Oh, I know what that's about." And I said, "You do? Tell me." And she said, "Well, I lost a child. A couple of years ago, I lost a 12-year-old child, and and that's so hard, you know. And she said, and I kept trying to mend the broken fan. And whenever I tried to do that, I just suffered. But in another way, the whole rhinoceros of life is still here. My child even is still in my heart, and I can talk to her and things like that. And I thought, oh, yeah, thank you. And so that would be a beginning, that it allows, a koan is, as well as being a conversation, a little story, it allows your imagination, your heart to work on life, on your life. And so, and it doesn't tell you what answer you should get, but it allows you to go deeper into the, you know, am I with the rhinoceros or the broken fan? Mm-hmm. It allows you to go deeper into your life with these kind of questions and images, and it will follow you around like a friend or a good dog, you know. So I don't know. What do you think, Katie?
Gosh, I'm kind of mesmerized with your voice and what you say. What do I think? I just like to hear more.
Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted from Katie when we talked before we started this was, well, it might be kind of fun to have you take the ride a bit, both with Katie's inquiry, which is, I think, a great, precious thing, and in a way, well, let me say what I think inquiry is. Since I'll be Katie, you can be John.
You know, one place I went when you were
Okay.
talking about the prison cell,
Yeah.
and you know the decorating it.
Yeah.
You know, that's not it. As you
Right,
were
right.
saying, you know, that's not it, because after the decoration, we're still left with this. So if we understand, is it like this, John? When you understand, you have no fear of the unbridled open mind, then there's no limit to it. And because it's open, there's no limit to it. So there's this self-realization along the path. And to even be stuck there is to, you know, to contemplate it, but not get stuck there. And just to continue with, that would be a koan in itself, to open up. Is that it?
Yeah. So the gates are open. Mm-hmm. They're always open. And even if I feel like, you know, it's quite common for us to discover something and think, that's great. And then after a while you realize you're just hanging on to how great it is, you know. And then you think, what I've got is hanging on, not great, not how great it is. And then that's great.
Yeah.
And you turn into the thing that you're, even if you're tensing up, if you don't judge or criticize that, and turn into that and explore that, then suddenly that's it too. And so that's why, I mean, I think the beautiful thing that the work has in common with koans is you turn towards the difficult thing. You don't, you know, in a dream, you meet a monster, and if you flee it, it gets bigger, and its claws and its teeth, and it turns into a Tyrannosaurus, or something like that. 40-foot wingspan pterodactyl. But when you turn towards something, you're in relationship with it, and so it's the same with our difficulties or sorrows, I think, you know. And I think, you know, that's the great thing you do with inquiry. You just, well,
Yeah, so it should be.
what if we haven't looked? What if we think it's this, but it's not that? You know?
And that is such an open mind. You know, what if it's not that?
Right.
Because otherwise we're stuck in it, and the question isn't even in our realm of consideration, and so we're stuck, and you know, growth stunted. I refer to that as, you know, the life of a believer. But let's. I invite you all to close your eyes and just relax, and when you hear what I'm about to say, see who comes to mind. Okay, so if you had to say someone ruined your life, who would that person be? And notice the person that came to mind. He or she ruined my life. Now notice in your mind's eye the situation that came to your mind when you saw that person in your mind's eye, that experience, that situation in your mind's eye. And notice approximately what age were you and whether it was yesterday or 20 years ago. And notice, what did this person say or do? That person ruined your life. What did they say or do? Ruined your life in that situation with that person. Now notice, in that moment in time, there could be 3 or 4 or 5 or 30, but anchor into one situation where your life was being ruined by this person. And are you in the kitchen? Are you in a car? Are you texting? Is it an email? Now, as you look at that person and look at you in that situation, feel what it feels like. Get as close to it as you can. The person ruined my life. Notice what they did and how that feels. So now I invite you to stay anchored in that moment in time, in that situation, and open your notebooks and find the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. And you have everything in your mind's eye required to fill in just statement number 1. The emotions there, the person, you know who that person is now, and you're in touch with what they said or did that hurt you so deeply. And for some of you that are familiar with the work, it doesn't have to be as devastating as something like this. I just like to start this way so everyone has a chance to go as far as you want to go. But filling in something just absolutely petty can give you the same experience. So that would be like the rhinoceros ear. Huh? That would be like the rhinoceros fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll continue to look at put that rhinoceros together. Short, simple sentence. Just clear, crisp, to the point. And notice how your mind will want to change it or fix it, and just trust. We're in the open mind here. What comes, that's it. Okay, staying anchored in that time and place, in that emotion, just be there now. And begin to identify in that situation with that person, what did you want? What did you want from that person? So those of you that are meditators, just get still in this, and for all of us. It's not what you wanted from them now. The trick is to get so still that you can identify what you wanted from them then. So really, we're identifying the ego. If we were hurt in any way, the ego was at work. So what we're doing now is we're identifying what we were thinking and believing then that will show us the cause of our suffering then. So with your eyes closed, continuing to meditate on that situation, that time and place with that person. What advice would you offer that person to get what you want? What advice would you offer that person? They should, they shouldn't. And it's really helpful to give them advice they can actually take. What advice would you offer that person? He should, he shouldn't. So be present in that situation. And when you can see it, fill in statement 3. Now as you continued just being there now in this moment in time, which is where the mind lives half of the time anyway, past, future, so let's get this squared away. So being there now, anchored there, what do you need to be happy in that situation with that person? What do you need from that person? What do you need them to say, do, be? What takes a lot of stillness to get in touch with that. And if you just don't see it, for those of you that can't quite see it yet, there's a feeling that goes with it. So go with that, put it into words, and fill in statement 4. Those of you that have taken this on as a practice, it becomes very simple to get in touch with it eventually. You need from that person to, what they say or do that would make you happy. It would take you from that emotion that you're feeling all the way to happy. Happy by your own definition. For me, it would be balance. Now I invite you to stay focused there and begin to get in touch with the thoughts you were thinking then. What were your thoughts about that person and that situation? And don't expect them to be wise. When we're hurt, the ego is at work. So just expect it. What were your thoughts about that person in that situation then? When you've identified those, fill in statement 5. What is it about that situation that you never want to experience again? What is it about that person you never want to experience again? What is it about that person or that situation you never want to experience again? And fill in statement 6. How many of you need more time? How many of you are new to the work today? Would you raise your hands? Okay, so for all of us, what did you become aware of as you were filling this in? Yes. Here, let's get the microphone. Thank you for that.
Hi.
Hi.
I became aware that although what I wrote about happened probably 15 years ago, there's a piece of me that still believes that what I thought is true, and that although I believe that I had forgiven this person, I still haven't forgiven 100%, I think.
Yeah. It's for me, that's so lovely to get in touch with, especially when we understand that there's something we can actually do about it, and that is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, what did you become aware of as you were just filling in this worksheet? Yes. Right there, yeah. Right there. Yes.
How it's still influencing my life.
Yes. Yeah. We're dealing with a memory, with an event that is, yes, still running our life. That's how the past, the apparent past, can live. Just imagine if we understood all of these, there'd be no way to have a past that you didn't love. When those same images came to mind, they would be for you, not something that there's no reason to linger. It's just an experience that your word forgiveness. Yeah. Yes.
I was just aware. Hi. Just aware of my emotions are still I'm just really angry.
Yes.
And I keep telling myself that because I've been working with this for a while, that I'm beyond it. And my life has really been positive because of it. But I'm still really angry at that person. And I can't seem to let my new life flourish. And I know that it's happened for me, and it's in a good way. But I feel like if I could just forgive that person or really come to grips with it, that my new life could really flourish. I'm just having a hard time with that. Knowing it's good for me.
Yes.
And the anger.
Yes.
And I don't know how to work with that because it's keeping me back.
Are you new to the work?
No.
Okay, so there's a way. If you've done enough work to know that there is a way. So, thank you.
Oh.
Okay, so John, what's going through your wonderful mind?
It's really touching just being here, and one of the things, and just watching and being in it, really, I'm sort of feeling it,
Yeah.
And so,
I'm that way every
yeah,
time.
yeah, it's like you can't not, and why would you want not to feel what people are feeling, So there's that, and the other thing is how there's this moment when everyone's beautiful, even when we're suffering, we're beautiful, And I think it's somehow important to know that even when I'm in my dark passages, there's a light is with me and is in me, which is what you said about there's a way, you'll find a way, and if you look at each other, you'll see that in each other's faces. Everybody's beautiful. Nobody gets not to be beautiful. There's no excuse, no way out of that. And so somehow that's touching, that when we're just doing the inner work, that beauty becomes visible. And first maybe it's easier to see in others, but then it's in us too. We're always carrying it, you know.
Yeah. What comes to my mind is everyone is beautiful until I place on you, I stick on you what I'm thinking and believing about you. So if that drops because I no longer believed it, that's a permanent drop. That's a permanent drop. You know, we hear the word attachment. It's not things we attach to. It's what we believe about things and people and life that we attach to. So what I'm thinking and believing about you, how can I see you're beautiful? And I know it from my core, but what do I do from here to there? Okay? I question what I'm thinking and believing about you. It opens my mind. It shows me a lot, which, you know, we'll take a look at. And once it drops, you can't make it happen again. And because we're dealing with beliefs, it's not specific to you, what I believe. Like what I believe unto you, I'll believe unto you because it's that concept, those meanings that I am just sticking on the world and like Post-its everywhere. So, sweetheart, what would you stand again? What would you are you open to read statement number 1?
Yeah. Yes. I'm angry with Ahmad because he lied to me and he did not keep his word.
Okay, so let's just use him. I'm angry at him, okay? Because he lied to you and he didn't keep his word?
Yes.
Okay. So, those of you new to the work, if you look at the bottom of your page or on your folder, you'll see the 4 questions and turnarounds. That's the work. The work is a way to identify and then question the thoughts that you're thinking and believing. So he lied to you. Is it true?
Yes.
Okay. So he lied to you. Now stay in that situation with your eyes closed. You see him lying to you? Or the situation where you found out he lied? In your situation, just anchored there. Do you see him?
Yes.
So hear his words. Get really still. Listen. He lied to you. Is it true? Can you really know that it's true? You have to really listen to know.
Well, I know it didn't start off that way.
Yeah.
There were agreements made.
Mm-hmm. So he lied to you. So what is your situation?
I was offered a job to come out to California to work with him and help him in this company because I had some skills. And once I got out here, nothing was in writing, but I trusted him.
So he lied to you.
Yes.
Okay. So you're getting a clue that he's not meeting what you expected. Okay. So notice how you react. What happens when you believe the thought? He lied to me. Emotionally, let's get in touch with that first. Emotionally, what happens when you believe the thought?
I get really angry and just emotionally disappointed that I had this person in my mind that I trusted and things started falling apart. But I wanted to believe this person was truthful what they said. And
So things started falling apart.
Yes.
And the reason I stop you there is because it's like, how do you react when you believe the thought? You were answering the question. And then you moved into a kind of validation of what you were believing. And it's not right or wrong, it's just that that's how you leave inquiry. The difference between answering a question or talking about it. So it's good for all of us to know how we can get off track. So in that situation where you're falling apart, do you see you there?
Yes.
Okay. Are you standing or sitting?
I'm sitting.
Okay. And where are you?
I'm in my room.
Okay. So who would you be without the thought, he lied to me? So close your eyes, look at you, take off all the Post-its. The Post-its you have on you, on him, on the world.
Just happy to be in California working.
Well, you're not working, you're in your room.
In my room, just
Yeah,
being
stay
happy.
anchored.
Just happy.
Yeah. Other
peaceful.
than what you're thinking and believing, are you okay? Okay. Now notice, sitting there in your room, again, how do you react when you believe the thoughts? You see images of past, future. That's what happened. You can't believe without the movie. So you see those images? Future, what do they look like? You're homeless, you're pushing a cart somewhere.
Yes.
Yes. You know, it's funny
Yes.
how our minds go there.
In a foreign place, no family, just having to return home with my
Yeah.
tail under my...
So you see those images of
Yeah.
future, right? If you want fear and terror, get a future. And all the time, you're just sitting there perfectly okay. All your needs met. You know what I love about every moment? That. We're always okay. Other than what we're thinking and believing. You know, the world is beautiful. It's what we're believing about the world that could use a little work. Okay? So he lied to me. Turn it around. Let's find an opposite.
I lied to myself.
Yes. You didn't get it in writing. So just say that again and take it in. I mean, is there anyone here that has never lied to themselves? And so, you know, join the club. In that situation,
In that situation, I lied to myself because I didn't get it in writing.
yeah, you lied to yourself about the whole thing. Okay, this is may not feel like good news at first, but it really is a wake-up call. You know, I doubt you'll live the rest of your life without getting things in writing. It's user-friendly. It really works. And then if you don't get it in writing, you look to yourself and you no longer resent that person.
Right.
He lied to me. Can you find another turnaround? I lied to
him?
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? Where did you lie to him? This is tough work. In that situation around the job, when you got to the job, you got to him, where did you lie to him?
That I would just accept whatever the job entailed that he deemed necessary, because
Well,
I didn't.
You're asking me like I was there. Did you?
Well,
Did you lead him to believe that?
No, but by, I guess, not having it in writing and no parameters, everything was open season for whatever he wanted to put on the job description.
And those are your standards.
I did not state my standards.
I would say your standards are very high.
I felt they were, and I thought that he had an understanding of that of me, but
Well, he had his understanding, you had yours. you know, what people say, we believe onto. It's, you know, it's difficult just to hear. We imagine onto what we, so we lie to ourselves in that respect. So, thank you, sweetheart, and we'll see if we can get back to this. But I want to pull John in on this and see. Oh my goodness! I could just stay with you forever in this, and
I appreciate the
until
time.
we dance and play together.
It's something we work with daily.
Yeah.
This is kind of new to me. I'm her partner, and it's new to
So
me.
the microphone.
It's new to me to know that she's still angry to that extent,
Yeah.
where that emotional well-up just
Yeah.
almost occurred.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, we just really need to get these things squared away.
Right. And it's, as you said, like really facing the truth of the situation and of yourself is tremendously liberating.
It is, isn't it?
It's so freeing.
It gave me a life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I had one in hell, but thank you.
Yes.
You're so blessed to be with someone whose mind is so open.
Our relationship is a miracle. Me being here, the whole outcome of it is laughable in the end. And you gain something from someone's iniquity, deception. You learn a lesson from it. You become more aware about what that experience is, and you move on and become better for it.
Yes.
You know what not to become. Let them do whatever they do, just don't become it by retaliating or even staying angry.
Yes.
Move on.
Yeah. Aren't you glad she moved to California?
That's why I moved here.
Pardon?
That's why I moved here.
Yeah. Have you both thanked this man? You know, you'll see he'll follow you anywhere. This one.
When the time,
Yeah,
when we cross paths,
Yeah.
there's no need to be angry over it. And again, we deal with this every day with family, friends, and in our own spiritual walk. I'm a writer as well, so writing about transformation, having my own conversations all day, every day with the universe, all day, and it's allowing yourself to be human with the process of, I'm pissed off. And then coming to a place of, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
What is it about that person? And why would I stay in this space
Yes.
where I'm in this realm and this is where I choose to be?
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you.
So we
Open mind.
thanks.
So, John, is it true? How do I react when I believe the thought? You know, after what we just witnessed, where did your mind go?
Oh, well, a couple of things. One of the things I noticed, I liked the way you stood up and went for it. And think, good for you. Kind of, that's a very spirit of
rest of
Koans.
us,
That's
not
a
that
very
easy
spirit
to
of
do.
Zen,
Yeah.
It's like, stick to your guns, And if I'm pissed off, then if I really go into it, something might open, to that. And the thing that came to me that I know is in the work, and you don't get to blame yourself for what reasons you came to California. Like, you get to be, well, I wanted to come to California, and for me, I came to California for bad reasons too. It's like,
And we can say
I kind of like it here. So we're in the same club, and
we could say that you came to California for every good reason.
yeah.
So we have this.
Yeah, and are there mistakes? There's an innocence, like, you don't get to be blamed, and if you can think, there's a part we blame ourselves and think, I should have known, well, maybe, I don't know, probably, but you don't know until you know. And so there's something nice about, we're all feeling our way in the dark, and we're allowed to make mistakes, and even the person who hurt us is allowed to be an idiot and make mistakes, because and there's nothing wrong with being open and innocent, and I think that
something
the
beautiful about it.
open-hearted
Huh?
quality that brought you here will be good in other projects where you'll gradually check out the reality of situations more or something. But there's something nice about having that open-hearted quality, and you don't learn how valuable it is except by having it. And when you have it, you only learn how to use it by being hurt and thinking, well, maybe not that way, but it's a good thing, you know. I would say that in Zen they talk about, you know, people talk about that light that everyone has inside them. Well, that moment of open-heartedness, you can feel it's there, you know, but it's there even when, it's not like we're trying to get rid of all our mistakes, you know, because I don't know what's a mistake really. You know, it got you to California, got you in this relationship, you know. It's either all mistakes or it's no mistakes, you know, sort of thing. So just to say that we can, if we can see the light even in the ways we imprison ourselves or get caught, that's a profound thing, you know.
Yeah.
That it's not just when I get free the light is there before I got free. You have it, like when we say it's now, like it's now. You know, so there's that. You know, it's not some other person, not some other time, not some other place.
Yeah.
So that's a Koanville, and that's how inquiry. I think inquiry, you know, it rests on that assumption.
Okay, so sweetheart, let's keep moving. Okay, he didn't. So deep breath. Let's go in again. So he didn't keep his word. Is it true? You're sitting on the bed. I mean, not on the bed. You're sitting in your room.
On the bed, I was.
On the bed. I saw you there, you know. So how many of you saw her sitting in a room? Okay, so that's how many rooms you have. You know, we all have that you. We believe you to be in that room. We believe to be or think it to be. Okay, so he didn't keep his word. Beautiful woman sitting on the bed in your room. He didn't keep his word. Is it true? And those of you new to the work, the answer is either yes or no. So it takes stillness. We meditate on that moment in time, that situation. We ask and just wait, and we see it. We see it. It's shown to us in our mind's eye. He didn't keep his word to you. Is it true?
No.
So just feel that. The answer to the first two questions is always one syllable. It's either yes or no. And we just are just there. And we can remember this woman just being there until we're shown. He didn't keep his word to you. Notice as you are sitting there how you react, what happens. Notice those images of past, future. One brings regret, one brings fear, one brings guilt, one brings fear, past, future, past, future. So sitting there, how do you react? What happens? What images do you see, stories do you see when you think the thought, he didn't keep his word?
Just being taken advantage of in my past, just the way I felt when someone uses me, those feelings came up. Not respecting my skill sets and not being compensated fairly for those. Just a lot of...
Yes. So you see that, and then you experience like that a sickness.
Yeah, that I was just to have to even tell anyone that I made a mistake, and I came out to California and just not exactly
so
what.
Sitting on the bed, you see you having to tell people you failed,
Yeah.
that you made a mistake, and then that fear. So regret, fear. As you sit on the bed. Okay, now as you witness that movie, you can see clearly that is what brings rise to your emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you have been in a movie and wanted to walk out, or you cried, or, well, that's it, sitting on the bed. See that? So who would you be? Notice who you are in that situation without the thought. Who would you be without your story, without the thought that he didn't keep his word?
Confident and continuing on and knowing that I'm good at what I do and no judgment about my thinking about my situation. I just would just be peaceful.
Yeah, and notice how the bed holds you, and are there windows in the room?
Yes.
And it's really good there. Other than what we're thinking and believing. Okay, so it's not wrong that we're thinking and believing and seeing images. It's just, are we awake to it's a dream? There's reality, and then there's the dream. So, and I love that you would all leave here knowing the difference between what's real and what's imagined in any given moment. So he didn't keep his word to you. Turn it around. Find an opposite. These opposites, we find opposite, and then we try them on like it's a new pair of shoes or boots. And we just try just to see, how does that fit? So an opposite.
I didn't keep my word to myself.
I didn't keep my word to me. Yeah, I didn't keep my word to myself. So try that on. What does that mean to you? Where is it that you didn't keep your word to yourself in that situation with him?
I didn't stand up for what I felt was right. I just didn't want to make waves. I just kind of thought he would come around to seeing that it was what he was saying.
So you were into wishful thinking.
Yes.
And manipulation, rather than just speaking up.
I didn't speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't confront the issue at hand when it came up.
So you didn't keep your word to you. Yeah, so just feel that, honey. How often do you find yourself in a situation like this and don't speak up because you're afraid of losing what you think you've got? Can you find another turnaround? He didn't keep his word to me.
He didn't keep his word to himself.
No, that we don't know about his mind. We're just working with yours. I didn't keep my word with
To him.
I didn't keep my word to him. So where is it you didn't keep your word?
Maybe I didn't come truthful with all of what I said I was coming to work to do. We just weren't clear on.
No,
I
we're
was
just
not
looking
clear.
at you. Good.
I was not clear on where my boundaries were, and I didn't state them to him when they were crossed.
That's clear. Yeah. Yeah, so you didn't keep your word for him because you didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with your standards,
Yes.
was a lot.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more than he expected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And the price was right.
For him?
Yeah, for him. And as it's turning out for you as well.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I love about the past? It's over.
Yes, thank
And
God.
it's a great teacher.
Absolutely has taught me so much. I just trying to let that anger go. And I just, sometimes, it's just that twist in me. It just, when I think about what I did, but you know, looking at what I've gained, that's why I'm confused for myself. Like, I know
Well, you know,
better.
when I think about what he did, it brings me back to what did I do? And then I can see I didn't keep my word to myself. I didn't keep my word to him. I didn't get it in writing. So your question is always answered.
Yes. I think I'm more angry at myself than him, to be honest, knowing better.
Well, when you consider what you were thinking and believing at the time, is it possible to speak up?
No.
No. Can any of you stop believing what you're believing in the moment you're believing it? Is it possible? So are you guilty? Are you guilty? Can you remember what you can't remember? When you can't remember it? Can you stop yourself from believing what you believe in the moment you believe it? So we're all innocent. Completely innocent. Okay, sweetheart. What is the next one? Statement 2. John, you have any thoughts?
No, I think I'd like to let you just go through this, and then I'll do a con process with people a little bit. If there'll be room, I think, at the end.
Oh, excellent. Okay, yeah, I'm in the same place. This beautiful woman. Let's look at 3.
3. Ahmad,
Did we look at the wants? Let's look at the wants.
what I want. I want Ahmad to be the mentor he promised to be and respect what I had to offer his company.
You want him to be the mentor that he promised to be. Is that true? Now take a look at it. Did he even promise to be your mentor? Or was that all yours? Did he say, I'll be your mentor?
Some conversations that came up.
Oh, thank you, honey.
Yes, in some conversations that came up, that internship, mentorship.
Good. Okay. So you want him, knowing what you know now, you want him to be your mentor. Is it true?
No.
Very wise. And how do you react when you think the thought, I want him to be my mentor?
Right now, in my thinking,
Then, in that situation,
in that
sitting on the bed.
feeling grateful, like
Well, at that time,
at that time.
when you had the thought, I want him to be the mentor he promised to be.
I was satisfied with that at that time.
Okay. Sitting on the bed. Okay, I want him to be my mentor.
Yes.
Turn it around.
I want me to be my mentor.
Now, of the two of you, which would you prefer?
Myself.
I want him to be my mentor. Turn it around to the opposite. I don't want.
I don't want him to be my mentor
And specifically, why?
because he's not a man of his word. He disappointed me in his promises, in my thoughts.
Yeah. So I think that of the two mentors, you're the one you can trust.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And in the interest of time, is there a certified facilitator here? Would you work with her after? If you'd like, this gentleman, Eduardo, would be happy to complete this with you.
Thank you.
In good hands.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so John,
Yes.
so what comes to
I'm
your
here.
mind when you so what comes to your mind when you witness the work and your experience in Koans and what similarities do you see? What
Well,
Really just,
I mean, I think the cool thing about this process is that in a way with meditation you have these really experience of clarity where it's like a mandala. The whole universe is like a mandala. It's like this whole universe is beautiful, and you can see that, And then, something happens, like someone gets sick, or you get sick, or someone offers you a job and pulls it back, or whatever. Stuff happens. And then
life happens.
Life happens, right. And then the question becomes, is that full of light too? Can I see the light in that, in being disappointed or in being... And so then the inner work then becomes this whole thing in Koanville about, am I just stuck when I'm holding my mouth right, or I'm in a meditation hall, or everybody's nice to me and everything's beautiful, but what about when nobody's nice to me and, I don't have, what about even when I don't have my tools available, like what if you're sick and your mind isn't clear or something like that, So the question, it's kind of the same question really, which is that if everyone has a light, then and everything in the universe has a kind of light in it, and kids know this. You go out and play, and they're beautiful, and you know that about yourself really. That if you just sit and wait and look inside, it's okay. When you're doing the exercise on sitting on the bed, is there really a problem when you're sitting on the bed in your room? Tell me there's a problem, And so that would be Koanville. And the thing and so in Buddhism that's often called emptiness or spaciousness, because we're always trying to accumulate things in life. I want more stuff or more experiences or get rid of things. I want less of stuff, but actually, maybe as it is fine. That we don't have to. Happiness doesn't come from acquiring things or even getting rid of things. It comes from being here, and there's no good reason for being ourselves, because that reason's always diminishes. So like that. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then the way you look, if we can do an exercise, if you look at someone's face, pick a face, any face. They don't even have to look at you, just look at someone. Don't be chicken shit, look at someone's face. You're not responsible for who you're looking at, but just look. And can you see, is it okay? How do you feel looking at someone's face? Can you be at peace just looking? Without having to make them feel better or excuse yourself or any of that stuff. All those stories that are really about, we don't need. But if I'm just here, and now look inside yourself, and you're just here too. Sometimes we can see it easier in someone else. And at that moment, if you look inside yourself, you're okay. So any piece of awakening, enlightenment, Buddha nature, whatever you call it, the light is all of the light. So that any moment you're okay is fine. And one of the things I think we do is we privilege those moments when we don't feel okay and think they're the big thing to concentrate on. But, our life is working fine, but you know what my mother did when I was a child? And that's, in a way, that's all right to look at that too, but because it's part of the dream of our lives. This happened to me, I came from here, I'm this gender, came from this place or whatever. And that's part of the dream, but it doesn't ever get to disqualify us from life is always here. And the beauty of life is always available. And I think the inquiry process kind of is an uncovery process, really, in that way.
Is that
Uncovering process,
yeah.
unveiling, uncovering, really, seeing through because we add all this stuff and think it's terrible because And I don't know, after you've done enough koans or inquiry, and if you say to yourself, it's terrible because, you start laughing because there's no reason it's terrible, you know. There's never enough reason to throw away this moment, you know. So.
Never enough valid reason, for sure, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can always
But
find it.
we feel like it's
reasons,
valid, and it's huge to us. And
So it's kind of like we're in this dream, and we do get. I actually like the imagination. I think imagination it actually gives us, when we get a little bit free with meditation or whatever, when we clear the decks a bit, imagination tells us what we love, and that's going to be unique to everyone. So everybody's not the same when you get free, you know. In fact, you won't be. You'll be exactly you. And there's a koan that goes, a couple of friends were sitting there washing out bowls outside, and they'd been had a meal together, a picnic, and they were washing the bowls in the creek, and they saw two crows start to tear apart a frog, you know. And one of the friends says, God, why does it always have to be like this, you know? The other friend says, it's only for your benefit, honored one. That everything that happens is part of our lives, and we can't refuse it, really, you know. Somebody mistreated me, well, I don't know. I don't have to reject, I don't have to think I was wrong or to blame or anything. You know, it's part of what I learned, and I think some of those times have been really, in my life, some of the times of fire and difficulty of really, you know, illness and things like that. It's fine, you know. It's not a bad thing. It's the world is the universe is dreaming us, and that was the dream at that time. But it's not outside the world of beauty and light and the absolute truth of things, you know, as they are.
yeah, the absolute truth is often just an opinion.
Yeah, well, there's a thing that's built before the opinions and below the opinions, where there's this sort of witnessing consciousness seems to be here before we formed our explanations and ideas and things like that, you know. And that's what I'm calling the truth of things. Yeah. We look in someone's face. I remember walking with you somewhere once, and you're walking along and talking to me about consciousness, which is the main conversation, and your cell phone rings, so you're talking on the cell phone and talking to me, and then there's a homeless person there, and you kneel down and talk to her, and there's the three conversations, and she loves it, I'm having a good time, and I imagine whoever was on the phone was having a good time too. And so there's a kind of just, there's nothing wrong with the homeless person at that time. There's nothing wrong with the requests coming in. There's nothing wrong with
the phone.
Trying to do it all at once on the phone and everything. And it's not only there's nothing wrong, but it's all perfect. And
it's like there's room for everything in that space.
Right.
Never too much.
And the homeless person's eyes are beautiful. You know, the truth is in them. The reality is in everybody. The beauty of whatever we're calling it is in everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Do we want to go? Are we going to do questions? I'd like to do. Can I do a little process with a koan? I'd like,
absolutely.
Okay, let's do a little right. So, it's kind of a Buddha nature exercise or whatever. I mean, Buddha nature is one of those made-up silly words that we mean for this. It's always this, and so the fundamental inquiry question and koan is, what is this? Or who am I in this? You know. So anyway, this is this. So once upon a time, there were 50 people there were 50 pilgrims, seekers of the way. And when the time came, they all got into the bath together. They all went down to bathe, you know. There were 50 pilgrims, seekers of the way. And when the time came, they all went into the bath together. And they realized the cause of water. They cried out, this subtle touch reveals the light that is in all things. Just touching water reveals the light that is in all things. We have reached the place where the sons and the daughters of the Buddha live. So if you just the thing about imagination, it can help you out. If you don't think you have to know what that means, then you let it into your heart. So a koan is interesting because most of the time, knowing what something means doesn't help. It takes us deeper into our suffering, right? There's a reason he did that, and that's why he was minding other people's business, So we got into the bath, we're all in the bath together and realized the cause of water. And can you feel like, oh, here we are, we're in the bath together. And see the light that is in all things, So just look at something, Look at something without thinking you have to know what it is, or look at someone without thinking you have to know what they're like. Go ahead. Yeah. Live dangerously, look at something. You might do it wrong. No, I don't think that can be true. So you can start to see with meditation is something you can't do wrong, which is remarkable if you think about it. So just look at something and notice. Okay, and then it's okay. It's always here, so that the light that is in all things, you'll notice that actually even trees and animals have that beauty of things, right? Not even trees. They're not worried about who betrayed them, and so they're actually kind of probably doing a bit better sometimes.
And they grow and prosper.
The tree is just putting out its leaves and saying, "Isn't it a splendid morning?" And in a sense, so one of the things I think we start having empathy. I think an important thing is if we're not always caught in our prison, we have empathy for ourselves and love and compassion. And what's wrong with? So I screwed up. So I'm suffering, and I believe someone, and they lie. Yeah, everybody does that. So what's wrong with me? What's especially wrong with me? So it becomes sort of freer, and also then. Your kindness for yourself, you'll have kindness for the trees and the waters and the planet and, the oceans and the fish and things, birds. And you can feel that. You'll sit in a garden, you hear the birds. It's beautiful, So.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it's not all, I am also that. I am also the world I'm in. I'm not just locked in here and I need whatever I need. If I don't get my coffee in the morning, it's a national tragedy. We're here, and we are the universe, we are the circumstances. I am the person I'm negotiating with, and whether I'm doing well or not. And so I want them to do well too, So,
Yeah, if when you were, is it time, sweetie? Is that it? Oh, I thought you said we only have 15 minutes. Oh, 50. Oh, that's so good. Okay.
After all, you didn't let us down after all.
So when they got into the bath and they saw the cause of water.
They felt the cause
They
of
felt
water.
the
They
cause
tasted,
of water.
they smelled, yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
So there is no cause
Right.
of water until that is cause.
Yeah.
With each.
So what the Koans do is they play with the ways the mind makes its stories. Like, what's the cause of water? Like, And, but the other, a Koan will also, we spend a lot of time finding ourselves in an insoluble problem. And I think it's how we grow. So it's an honorable situation to have an impossible problem. And some things, you'll see through them, and then they'll be back in another form, and that's all right because there's a thread for your life, and it's okay to have a thread in that way.
So we think there's a cause for water.
Yeah,
And we're guessing. And then when we experience water, that is, what we experience is the cause.
Well, yeah,
cause
what
has
we
shown
experience
up.
is so much more vast than the thought of what
that's the
water
cause.
is, or we
Of
experience the cause of suffering. No,
What-
that's just an explanation.
Yeah,
suffering is the sorrow or whatever, but the explanations are just, it's like the cause of water, it's the same. You know, it's like, what's water really like? What's like this? Or when I'm suffering, what's it really like? It can be interesting if you really notice and don't have a label that this is good or bad. It's just what I'm noticing. It will change because it can't help it, because everything's alive and everything's moving. And, you know, so it can't, if I'm just with it, and inquiry is also a way of being with it. You're not even trying to get rid of your suffering, you're just trying to find out what's true, right? You know, I mean, trying to get rid of your suffering is kind of a manipulation.
Witnessing.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just
that's a kind of love, really.
Sitting in a, it is.
Yeah. And so you're loving your own life, including the things that you think you couldn't love, you know. So.
Yeah.
And that's the cause of water. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know. But also that is the light in things. And I think that's a thing, I mean, that's a metaphor, but you'll notice it. You know, you go outside today and you'll notice the trees and you know, hi, and you start saying hi to things, or they're saying hi to you, right? You know. And it's not, you're not hallucinating, it's like really, we're all in this together, the trees and Katie and I and everyone else, you know. This is where we are. So all the exercise and transformation stuff is about, in a way, getting free of suffering, but really it's also really about loving it more, appreciating it more, loving each other more. And we can love the kids and we can try and give them a world they'll enjoy and, you know, things like that, you know.
Here's John.
What I'm understanding about my limited understanding, but it is what I'm getting right now, is that we become aware of things as we become aware. They become real when we're aware of them, and then we interact with each other with whatever it is that we become aware of. Now, with suffering, we don't know suffering until we experience it. But how do we, do we need to be aware of it and just let it, or just do not be aware of it and it doesn't exist?
Well, for me, go ahead.
No, go. Yeah, I mean, for you, I want to hear. How is it for you, Katie?
Well, for me, it's a delight because I know what brings it on. I know cause and effect. What I'm thinking and believing is the cause of all emotions. Remember as we saw earlier, this past, future, we don't know that's going on. How many of you had breakfast this morning? Okay, where's your proof? Okay, did you see an image of you having breakfast this morning? Okay, so there's reality, and then there's imagination. So I can't be two. Okay, and I call this, first generation thinking. But there can't be two. This is imagination, not I. Not I. But I'm planning on dinner tonight. I saw me at the table. I'm not sure what I'm ordering. Okay, but I have this vague. Okay, so is that I? Is that me I see? Okay, that's not I. Okay, so present right here. Now, the process we watched earlier, of inquiry, we take this imagination and and it's vivid. We call it resentment. For example, suffering. And we just meditate on that moment in time in that past and put it on paper just the way we did today. And then as we question it, we begin to see what's true and what's not in that situation, what's true and what's not from here, and what's true and what's not as far as the cause of my suffering. So my suffering is not a mystery ever, and that's huge. So that when I experience suffering, let's say the emotional, then I can just let that be and just be in it. It's like, how do I react when I think the thought? And just let that suffering be. The suffering that we're afraid of, just let it be and see how much of our body it takes over. See, on a scale from 1 to 10, I thought it was a 10, but no, it was just really this. Or the other way around. And just being with that. But inquiry takes the fear out of it, and it brings an excitement to it. I call it the order of creation to my own experience, which don't ever believe me, always test it. But it's think, feel, act, have. And we think we feel first, and that's only right. But when we're feeling and we look back to the cause of that suffering, then we have think, feel, act, have. In other words, have our life and what we believe it to be. And it haunts us until we wake up from the dream. And eventually it starts adding up. It starts adding up, and you're awake to yourself in the sense that I am speaking to. But no, suffering is all suffering is either anticipated or remembered. Not I. So what is in the center if it's all remembered or anticipated? So that is that beauty that John speaks to so clearly to my mind, that light that's always there immovably. And anyway, that's the reference that I experience when I hear you speak to that light.
Yes. Can I, one of the neat things is if you're not perceiving yourself to suffer, well, there's not really a problem yet, so that's fine. And and there's a question, sometimes we're unconsciously unhappy and we don't know, and our friends tell us or something like that, and so that might be going on, and then we can be curious. But life gives us enough suffering without us needing to look for it in order for our personal growth or something. But I mean, I think your question was about method. Well, what if I'm not aware of something? Is that right?
It can be also. And it's also a choice. I mean, I'm not familiar with the method, but when I hear about what is suffering and how we experience it as an emotion and how we deal with it, I mean, we can quantify it and say, okay, this is from 1 to 10, and we bring it to a logical form, and then the emotional part goes away because we brought it to a material reality in some way. But when we think about, okay, somebody dear died a long time ago, and then we bring that suffering that we experienced at that time now over and over and over again. As of the beginning, we can choose to say, okay, we can question the same things. Do I need to suffer? Do I need to experience this?
Well, for me, I have to go back to that death, just like that woman did, and identify what I was thinking and believing then, and do now what I couldn't do then. I can question what I was thinking and believing and get in touch with the cause of suffering, and that changes this identity. It shifts.
I mean, a lot of it is how we hold. It's the world our mind is making that we're living in, and you can call it a story or a narrative or whatever you call. Katie calls it a story often, but and often you just see through it. Everybody's had experiences where it's flipped. You thought this was terrible, but I have a couple of stories like I kind of like those times when I'm starting to resist reality. And it's kind of fun, and like I have 2 stories come to mind. One was I was on a fishing boat, and this guy had broken down, and he was loaded, and the waves were washing over. It looked like he might sink, and he didn't want to ditch his boat because it was loaded with fish, and he would get himself out of bankruptcy. If he didn't come back with fish, they'd arrest him at the wharves. It was one of those funny things. But a storm's coming in, and our boat's rolling, and there's no way to get to him easily. We didn't want to bring our boat in; it might be dangerous, and near him. And so I'm the deckhand, and it's my job to swim to him and help him. But we've been cleaning fish. There are sharks. I can see the sharks. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I can't leave this guy to sink and drown, but I'm supposed to help him. And then suddenly I realized, I'm having the time of my life. This is grand. This is the right problem to have. So that sort of thing will happen. Or I have another story that's a little bit more where I went to the ER it was at Duke in Durham, and it's like a very working class, streety kind of ER where the charge person who books you in asks you for a number, and they say, "What number is your pain?" I'm looking around, people with gunshot wounds and everything. I think, wow, doesn't seem I'm really in a lot of pain, but I'm Tasmanian, and so I'm fine, about 3, And so they say, "Okay, sit over there." Okay, and I got a friend with me, and all night nobody calls me, of course, because they've got everybody who comes in. The right answer is 10. My pain is 10. And I'm sitting there, and the whole place is grey, but there's interesting people coming through, and I'm in a lot of pain, and it was great. And I thought, next time I know the right answer. And then at dawn, they changed shifts, and the resident called down and said, "What's that guy still doing here? What's going on?" And they told him what. He said, "Oh, that's not a problem. Called in prescription, take that." Nobody even saw me. I was fine. But it was sort of like this long, eternal time, and I realized, where I didn't have to fight it. And it was, So anyway, this is just like funny stories, but it was really how our mind makes reality. And if we just step out of that, it's not a problem yet, And I had a friend with me who was suffering just as much as I was because he was bored, stiff. At least I was in pain. And he was great. And not only that, he was a doctor, but he wouldn't pull rank to get me in. It was really funny. So anyway, so we had this good time, and actually after that, we were really bonded. So anyway, so it's about how we make up the universe, and we're always living in this, it's like a frog jumping to a lily pad, but then the lily pad starts to sink. The universe we made up isn't making sense, and we call that suffering. And so, oh wait, I can just throw it away. I don't have to patch it and fix the fan or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, and that's a lot of enlightenment, for and so many of us, and I'm sure, you too at times, but when we're convinced, we're convinced.
Yeah.
Not attachment.
Which is the time to be really suspicious. I know you did that. The only thing I know about that is it's not true. Yeah. When I'm really convinced. And I can tell I'm convinced because I'm defending my story, right? Mm-hmm. Anytime I'm defending my story and arguing, but you should have,
Yeah. Yeah, when we're convinced, and often it's later that we can look back. It's always later, but in time later we look back, and then we can get in touch with that situation again, and what we're thinking and believing is the cause of our suffering. So it's just logical we would go back and retrieve it, and to do now with that what we weren't able to do then with that. So anytime we fill in a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, or anytime I fill in a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, I'm dealing with the cause of suffering. And when I question it, the bubble can pop. And the next time I see those images of that past, then it's a very different experience. I can't make myself believe those things again. And if I do, I can always fill in another worksheet until it's done. And I can do a worksheet, for example, on my mother, and then see my mother and still hold a grudge. But I run into other people that I hold grudges on and wonder why there's no grudge. Because we're dealing with concepts, not people, when we're dealing with a worksheet. So once something shifts, it shifts all around because it's your experience in this apparent world is shifting. Yeah. Mm.
How we project in the age of texting what someone's thinking. Well, read this text. Look how they said it. It's just words. It says, I love you. No, it says, I love you.
Yeah.
It's all in your head. It's humorous. It completely cracks me up.
I love you bringing up that point. Like someone texts us something and we just put something onto that. Right. And it's just this simple text, but this, we posted on it. And yeah, good point. Yeah, yes.
So I'm thinking about the Koan idea, and what I have known of the Koan idea before, of course, are like these pithy stories that get you thinking and are provocative. But I'm also kind of wondering today with this conversation is about Koan as a way of thinking, as not a noun, but a way of being. So that as situations come up, my question is, how can I look at that situation as a Koan?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah. So let's do this. Everyone, we can all try. This is another one of like Katie's scenarios. So here's the scenario. You are hanging from a branch by your teeth. Your hands cannot reach any branch. Your feet cannot find the trunk. You know, you're high up in a tree, hanging from a branch by your teeth. Then someone appears beneath the tree and says, "What is the meaning of life?" You're having open heart surgery and they want to know where the milk is. But what is the meaning of life? But it's a deep thing. If you do not answer, you fail to be helpful and kind. If you do answer, you lose your life. What will you do? You know? So there's something beautiful about being thrown into the dilemma. And so you will, every time you hit a thing where, oh, what do I do? You know, like my thing about, should I swim to rescue this guy? Should I, whatever it is? Or should I leave? Should I stand up and assert my rights in the emergency? All this stuff. And we have endless things about that, and we argue. And so and then what will happen is, I don't think we have to consciously do it as a technique. You just touch the koan as a companion, or an environment that you're in. You realize, oh, I'm always in this. I'm hanging from a branch by my teeth. It's kind of fun, or actually my jaw's really hurting, and if I let go, I die. Well, what's wrong with that? So, in other words, my plans fail or whatever. So, what you'll find is if you start hanging out with a koan, you're not using it as a gadget, although you'll find books that tell you how to use koans as gadgets, and a toaster, a can opener for the mind or something. And that's all right, but a deeper thing is that it will accompany you and you can touch it, and it will change your mind. It will open your stories by itself because it happens before we started thinking and planning and scheming. So it works at the unconscious level. Yeah. So that's what the poetry of koans is, or the music of koans. That it's none of your business how you get healed or free.
I love that so much because the mind is always an inquiry. Really, it's always questioning.
Yeah.
It's questioning without the question.
What is this? Is this true anyway?
Yeah.
Is this real?
Yeah. So then, when you're living what you see as your life, your mind is that open as well. I mean, isn't that so? Just from sitting in the practice until there's a blend. And I think that's what what
Well,
I
you know,
see in
the
you, John.
original, like some of the very original koans that came from India originally were the, what is this? Who am I? And you know, the whole spiritual tradition is based on it. And I mean, the nice thing about the inquiry work that you're doing, Katie, I think, it gives you a few more like places to grab that. That you can, if you've got a particular situation, you can bring the inquiry into the situation with this beautiful system of questions, and then you realize, oh, I start getting free, and then perhaps, you know, after a while, you won't have to go, or you might or might not. It's, you know, just the curiosity, comes up, and things start to open. The pathway opens, and the who would you be without that belief, thought, emotion, whatever, is the fundamental Koan question, really. Because who am I? That's not very interesting, actually. I notice I'm looking forward to lunch or whatever.
I think,
It's like that. You know, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
or
who
I'm
am I?
enjoying being here with my friend, you know. Yeah.
And who am I not is always answered, you know, from this internal
That's
life.
any who am
seeing
I
it.
have is who I am not, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea about I'm this, I should be, you know, I have,
Yeah,
have a PhD, I should be knowing this. Well, I don't, so, you know, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, wrestle for it. No, wait.
Speaking about sort of being the witness, and being the witness and trying to figure out how you feel. With the judging your neighbor practice, I'm totally new to this work, but I couldn't really go with judging the neighbor. I went with judging myself, because I always, when I look back on things that have happened in my life that were challenging, I sort of go to the witness and sort of say, well, it was challenging because of who I was at the time and how I didn't really perhaps know myself enough, or didn't stand up for myself. So I did the whole thing from myself. Now, how off was I on that?
The ego is very invested when you're that close. So if you judge, it's okay. But if you judge someone else, you fill in the worksheet, what your thoughts about someone else. Well, when you look at, you know, I fill in the worksheet. Well, who filled that in? That was me. So when I question those thoughts, it's all about me. I've just put a projection between me and me, so I am not so ego invested. Is that clear enough? I mean, if I'm filling in a worksheet, it's just all about me. Those are my words that came out of my mind. So either way, it's all about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that,
It's all me anyway.
It's all,
Well,
yeah.
So I think, but you know, A and B testing.
I mean, is it useful, or was that totally, was I totally off to sort of say,
Well,
oh,
no.
well,
No, do.
Well, as I said,
I
it's
could have
okay.
learned, you know, I've learned so much about myself in that situation. I look back and I think, yeah, that like sucked at the time, but I learned so much about myself.
Yeah, just writing it down.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to be honest with myself, and I want to see myself.
But do A and B testing, because you also find, Katie's right about, like, so write one about someone else, and we can be a bit scared about that, because, oh, I'm judgmental and stuff, but really secretly you are anyway.
Right.
So just get over it, you know. And,
Yes, I don't
enjoy it.
like confrontation,
And
and
then-
I don't like to be
Yeah,
judgmental, so maybe that's
so
why I
Yeah.
went there.
do A and B testing, and you'll find which one gives you more freedom, and it's really all you. You're really judging yourself when you're judging someone else. You had a question.
So this is just something I've been noticing. When I remember that everything is just now, and I start listening to sounds or just feeling where I am, I stop like listening to my mind, and I'm just very present. And I just found the work, and I've been really, really excited about it and doing it a lot. But I've noticed that I've just been listening to my thoughts all the time now, And I find myself very either distracted, but also like I have lists and lists and lists of beliefs, you know. So I guess I'm just wondering, how do you negotiate like being present, but also being in the realm of the mind?
Well, first, what I'm hearing is, rather than looking at life, you are looking internally. You're aware of what you're thinking and believing, and in my world, that's huge.
Okay,
And
cool.
I mean, you are receiving an internal life, a result of what you're doing. So the next point for me is inquiry. And anytime I'm stuck on something, then I'm confused. And confusion is the only suffering in this world. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm just noticing like how confused I am.
Well,
Very confused.
that's a big noticing. You know, when we think the world's confused and we're confused, but now you're focused on what's creating the world, your world, and what you're thinking and believing creates that world as you believe it to be. It doesn't mean it's that way. It's just the world as you believe it to be. So when you question your thoughts about the world shifts to your mind. So, to my mind, great work. I couldn't help the work. I just saw it one day, and it took me out of the world, and out of the world of suffering, and it showed me a way to stay there if I were interested enough. Yeah. Which, as it turns out, I am, was, and hopefully will be.
I think confusion's a good, we're coming to an end, and I think confusion's a good place, because we're always trying to get certain when we don't have the data points, and we just can't, or because the universe is indescribable, and even if you have telescopes and all sorts of things going on. So, but we can dance in it. And so, one of the great koans goes, not knowing is the most intimate, because we're just in the uncertainty, and then the universe will open a path for us. We don't have to do it all without plotting and scheming, which, is always leads us to be at war with being confused or something like that.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of my question, because I've noticed there are moments where I almost kind of, I don't know if it's like dropping into infinity. Yeah, where like there isn't even any of the beliefs or the thoughts, and it's just pure infinity.
Yeah, you're in the don't know.
Yeah, just purely in the don't know. Yeah. And then sometimes it's like all beliefs or all thoughts, and I'm wondering, I don't know if that just like attention.
A little of this, a little of that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but a lot of awareness there, it seems.
Not knowing is how we experience infinity, and also, or emptiness, or whatever, spaciousness, whatever you're talking about, the eternal spiritual dimension of things. We experience that when we're not adding something by knowing, and so not knowing is intimate.
Yeah, and then ultimately we remember that. It's like I remember that spaciousness, and now I'm comparing it with this. So that's a past. And if we question it, this becomes this. Just like that. Same.
Totally.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for this. And what I'm hearing both of you say is just enjoy the ride. Is what I'm leaving here.
I would say enjoy the ride if you can. Okay, yeah.
And if you can't, there's method.
And if you can't, remember this man. And John, where are you going to? What's up for you next?
If you look at pacificzen.org has my calendar, and I'm in a major retreat in July up in Northern California, and various other lots of things I'm doing. So.
Yeah. And thank you all for being here. And those of you out there in the web world, thank you for joining us. And if you would like to see more of these more events like this with guests, just please email bk@thework.com or thework.com and let us know. And John, again,
Yeah,
thank you so
my
much
dear.
for blessing this space and our consciousness and life. So thank you. Okay. Did you enjoy that? Yeah, good. Good. I love the balance. You know, what I wanted for this, like John and Stephen and I will sit around a table and have so much fun. And I think we both just wanted to share it, huh?
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's really lovely. I don't know, all these different dance moves that start happening and you do, and it's nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, family.